I want to thank you all for the comments. As seemed clear to me from the last two questions, one of the challenges is in the Catholic media must be that the narratives that are deployed by people tend to be aggressively hostile towards other Catholics, let's put it that way, in various ways. Do you think there are ways that your publications, representing somewhat different constituencies, can try to offer narratives of this crisis that are not weaponized against other groups in the church?
I would just say, I think that this day is a good example of how to do that, because I've taken part in a number of these symposia and conferences talking about this issue, and all of them have had something valuable to contribute. But what I like about the program that was represented today is people with different viewpoints, different perspectives coming together and talking about these things, disagreeing about them, analyzing them, but all trusting that we share the same faith and we share the same motive, which is the advance of the faith and our growth in holiness. And that is the critical piece that is missing from the public discourse, because the public discourse is rife with motive questioning, right? And in as much as the Catholic discourse, the ecclesial discourse, looks very much like the public discourse, then we have failed. And when we fail at it, it's a much more grave matter, because the church is meant to be the instrument of humankind's reconciliation.
Well, the polarization is a huge problem. There was a good conference at Georgetown a while back on this theme. There was another one at Notre Dame in 2015. We don't seem to have solved the problem there. And unfortunately, it's difficult to keep people from weaponizing things, especially if you're reporting the news. It can be used in different ways. I wish that the church as a whole, that we could have, maybe through the example of the bishops, that we can engage in theological debate about and discussion without having to immediately rule the other people outside of the church. And I think I'm going to channel Russ Shaw on this, who has been warning about the danger, the lack of transparency in the church. But for example, the growth of executive sessions in the bishops' meetings would be one example. When we have differences, we go behind doors, and otherwise we're one big happy family. But I think as part of the adult formation of Catholics, which is sorely lacking, truthfully, and which the Catholic press is probably the only semi-systematic thing out there that's trying to do it, I think it would be great if the bishops themselves could model the kind of debate that I think we need, and help us just raise this, so we're not immediately going from zero to apocalypse when we have arguments. And I don't know how we do that, but we are a family, and we have to return to that. Bishop Flores in the Polarization Conference in 2015 at Notre Dame talked about that, how we've lost faith that the Father loves his children, and the Father has lost faith that the children love him. And it was a very resonant speech, and I think that we have to get back to this, that we can disagree and we can argue. Now, obviously, there's heresy and all that, but we're too quick to run to that, and instead really engage in intelligent and rational debate about significant theological issues.
I think we can kind of go back to where we started when we talked about Father Matt brought up the social media and in the media climate that we live in. I mean, the weaponization of information is happening absolutely everywhere. It is regrettable when it happens in our pages, in our virtual pages, you know, with our virtual pens. I don't think it's any of these three agencies' intentions ever to do that. You know, I was thinking about Father Matt's and America's editorials. I read them all the time, and I find that they're very similar to the things that we have to say in our editorials. We may disagree about the role that homosexuality plays in this crisis. It's often said it's a distraction in America's pages. At the Register's pages, we say it's something that needs more serious analysis. It is a problem that needs to be looked at. And so the differences are there. Is it our intention to hit each other over the head with those differences? No. Do we face pressures of sources? Yes. Who want to do that? Yes. Do we face pressures of readers who will, hit us over the head on immigration if we write one thing, and then if we say something about abuse of power, no, that's not the. Yes, we get hit from all sides. Honestly, every single one of us up here are going to hear from somebody about something that we write. So it's not an easy thing, and it's certainly not. It's certainly not an agenda. I mean, if anyone's wondering if we have an agenda. I don't. The Register doesn't. We seriously want to help our readers understand the context of what is happening and to think about what is happening. But yes, we do get caught up in the environment that we live in, and we do have to think seriously about how to navigate it and to be careful in our responses. And I personally wish Twitter was never invented. But it's there. And so that's a part of growing in virtue, I guess, is how we use Twitter.